All right, good morning and welcome back to the VIPC. Today is September 3rd, also my birthday, and it's post-Labor Day. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. I'm Jessie from Private Aviation Safety Alliance, here with your co-host, as usual, Preston Holland from Prestige Aircraft Finance. And we have a special guest today. Welcome to the show, Kyle Patel. Kyle, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Wonderful seeing you guys.
Absolutely.
Us from his brand new house that he just moved into. So he's in his office. First podcast from the new office.
That's right. Yeah, first anything from the new office, actually, except this is my second cup of coffee, so this is good stuff.
Awesome. Well, we're honored to have you. Just to give a teaser on the show today, why we have this special guest. Kyle's with BitLux. There's been some new things coming out on Bitcoin, stablecoin, and we think it's really important to the industry, or could be really important to the industry eventually. So that's why we have Kyle on today to help us with that discussion. So really looking forward to this one.
Awesome.
So we'll kick it off with the first story, Jessie, and this is totally in your camp. We're talking about safety. There's some news that's come out of Vista. Jessie, tell us about it.
Yes. So this week there was an article published about VistaJet in Europe has this enhanced training program. It's EBT, I think, standard. There's also an EBT enhanced. I have to go a little bit back in history to explain what this thing is, why it actually matters, why it's a big deal. So in the United States, we don't have standardized training programs. You, as an operator, have to come up with your own training program that the FAA approves, and then you run that through the training provider. It's kind of a mess. We're trying to streamline it in the US. We do have standardized training that's coming, but we don't have it yet. So that is one thing that Europe has already done that we have not. So I'm giving that background because it's important to understand that before going into what's going on at Vista. So not only does Europe have standardized training for aircraft, they also now have what's called an EBT program, and it's only been used by airlines thus far. But essentially, in a nutshell, it's taking training from your standardized checklist, standardized training programs, and enhancing them with real life data and information from pilots. So instead of sitting there and doing the same training things over and over again and not really addressing the actual safety things that need to be practiced more and more, they're using real life data for that training instead of just the standardized checklist. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. Sorry for the long explanation, but I think it's really cool. Wish we had it in the US, but I think we're a little bit behind the curve because we don't even have standard training yet.
So Jessie, what could this mean for, what are the steps that need to happen for this to come to the US? Because this seems a little bit like a no-brainer to me. I mean, when I think about operator complexity, there's a lot of complexity in the FAA system. Like, what type of hurdles have to get overcome in order for this to come to something even similar to come to the US?
Yeah, I think what's happening right now is that operators are doing it on their own, instead of, you talk about a NetJets or a FlexJet, someone that has access to thousands of pieces of information and they know what their pilots need to train on more, let's say landing in Aspen or getting into Teterboro in a circling approach. Those are things that those operators already know that they need to do additional training for. The EASA has formalized it in a way that FAA can't yet because we don't even have a standard training program, much less this new regulatory hurdle to overcome, which would be enhancing it with data. So I think a lot of people are doing it. I don't know what they're calling it necessarily, but it is happening. It just would be great if we had it here, but we don't currently.
So I have a small opinion on this, is that we are in the land of the free, number one. Right. So I believe hardcore in having the ability to incentivize things that we think are in the best form and best shape to do things, legislating, mandating, and requiring companies to follow some level of protocol that might not work out for the best interest of all the parties involved. I don't know. I think there's a different way other than getting regulators to try and pass a million different things, which in our bureaucratic nonsense is going to be slow, inefficient. When we all know, even your FSDOs take forever to approve stuff. How long does it take to go through conformity, even if it came off of another certificate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you're moving, if you have to have this huge platform that's government regulated, government mandated, and not incentivized in any other way other than, well, if you don't do it, you're not going to get insurance, you're not going to be able to operate, that seems to be like, it could cause a little bit of an uproar in my personal opinion. I think there's probably a better way to do that of saying, hey, What if we come up with a standardized system that with suggested data points from all of your, whether it's customer CSR surveys, pilot surveys, you could probably get surveys from ground crew even, and roll out some sort of national incentivization plan to where your insurance levels are dropped, or Argus could implement something like this, or Wyvern could implement something like this. Like, I don't know that we would need regulation to be able to, promote standardized safety protocol across the industry.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing with EASA. This is an optional program. Not even all the airlines have adopted it yet in Europe. But that's also what kind of makes the news big for Vista, is that they voluntarily have chosen to go to this sort of more enhanced training program. But again, I think there's probably a lot of U.S. operators that are doing it. If you're listening to the show, we'd love to have you come on and talk about your training program. But again, it's using real life data instead of just relying on the old ways that we've been doing things. It's nice to see some innovation and movement in a new direction.
Did they disclose at all how they're collecting any of that data? What exactly is the data points that they're training on?
So that I have not dug into details of that. I know most of the information that they're using today is airline data, because the airlines that are participating in Europe are all, commercial carriers. So that does kind of change things a bit. Obviously, charter, Part 91, totally different kind of flying than flying out of busy airports all the time. We're doing Aspen, we're doing the, weird uncontrolled airfields. So they're not getting that data yet, but that was in the press release with Vista, is that they want to get there eventually, where they're using their own information and their own data points to do the next level of this EBT program.
Interesting. I wonder, because I do know that Vista has had a long-standing staple of having some of the most well-trained, articulated, cohesive staff, from their operations department all the way to the flight attendants, pilots, you name it. So I would be curious to see if they could branch that off and create that standardized protocol that we were kind of talking about, and doing that on their own too. That'd be cool.
No, hats off to them. We love to see people doing things they don't even have to do in terms of safety. At least I do. So I'm happy to see them doing that.
Well, I think that brings us to one of our audience's favorite segments, which is Mile High Madness. Kyle is new to the show, so this is where Jessie and I find something crazy from social media and we share it on the show. And I have got one. I actually had a friend send me this, and Kyle and I are both going to rant on this because we've had many conversations about this. But once again, we have another Instagram influencer trying to tell us why we should buy this Global 6000 and make a ton of money on it. So let's watch it.
Hi, this is a Bombardier Global 6000, an ultra long range heavy private jet that can fly from San Francisco to Paris nonstop. Listing price is $25 million for a 2015 in great condition. Let's go ahead and run the numbers. The cost to charter is $13,000 per hour, and that includes...
Kyle, Jessie, is $13,000 per hour as a wholesale rate realistic for a Global 6000?
Jessie, you first.
I don't even know these days. Sorry, I've been out of the charter game for a bit, but no.
I think per occupied flight hour, yes, I think that's totally reasonable, and it's probably a little bit more in terms of actual occupied seat hour. But that is not what the owner will receive, and it is not proportional to what hours will be flown. So in that $13,000 to $17,000 an hour range, that does not include any repositioning. That's exactly what customers are paying, but that doesn't mean that's what the owner is getting. Your expense per occupied hour is going to be quite high.
Just wait. It gets better.
Includes fuel, but not the crew salary. Let's assume it gets booked 40% out of the year with an average...
That's if you missed it. That includes fuel. So he's saying that $13,000 net of fuel. Wrong.
Flight time of 3.5 hours per booking. This is going to bring in $6.63 million per year. Now let's break down the yearly costs. Crew salary is going to be $500,000.
If you're flying that much, there's no way you're getting away with 2 crew. Just no way.
PO fees are going to be $150,000. Maintenance $750,000. Detailing $450,000.
He's calculating detail. Who's paying $450,000 a year for that level of detailing? I should open a detailing company.
Insurance $30,000 and catering $100,000.
Insurance is the
30,000?
only thing. Insurance is the only thing he might have gotten decently close on a really solid fleet policy. But that's
For
I mean, that's gotta
135?
be,
No, I think it's way
yeah,
more now
no,
for an
it's gonna be
aircraft of
way
that
more than that.
size.
This brings our total operating cost to $2.14 million a year. We're going to trade in our Citation 10 and use a federal loan to finance the remaining 20 at a 6.5% interest rate.
You're not getting six unless you are a
Federal
billionaire.
loan?
And I'm not sure what federal loan program you're signing
What does
up
that
for
mean?
because it's
Can I
Canadian.
get one of those?
Like, yeah, seriously. Well, it's Canadian, so you're not going to qualify for. There's this weird export loan that you can get where if it's made in the United States and you export it, like you can get this weird loan program, but it would not. This doesn't qualify. It's a Canadian airplane. So that's a problem. At 6.5% on a 100% 135 aircraft, not going to happen.
No.
Which is going to give us an effective monthly payment of $149,000. This brings the total yearly operating cost to $3.93 million, with a total net profit of $2.7, even with just a 40% utilization rate. We're also going to register the aircraft in Delaware, saving about $1 million in use and sales tax upfront. What color should we paint ours?
I love these videos. It's so good. I had a friend who's he's a jet card flyer, and he sent it to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying this," and I was like, "Absolutely not. You're not doing that.
Do it.
PSA for anyone buying an aircraft to offset their cost. It's not going to happen. You're not going to make money. I don't care what plane it is. I don't care who's managing it. You're going to offset your cost a little bit, maybe in a really good situation. You are not going to make money on an airplane. I'm just putting that out there.
Unless you buy three. You can buy three of the exact same ones, and then you have a chance at being slightly
Fleet
profitable.
operation. Maybe, but you never get to fly it personally because it has to work all the time.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Something
And
else I want to point out that was a little strange about that is that he said the average flight on the Global is 3.5 hours. Average? Your daily minimums are 2 hours, and the average flight time on that's 5.5 hours. I mean, if you're using a $25 million piece of machinery to go from Miami to Atlanta, we got a problem.
Oh yeah. Another day.
Yet another Instagram influencer trying to dupe us into into thinking you can house hack a jet. You cannot.
He's doing pretty good. He just got put on this show.
That's very true. We just gave him free exposure. Dadgummit.
Dang it! What would you do, Preston?
No kidding. All right, Jesse's got a hilarious one from one of our favorite. This is a multi offender of Mile High Madness Instagram account.
Yeah, I love FBO memes. It's probably my favorite business aviation page. Again, don't go there if you are easily offended because there are some offensive things. But here we have a latitude. Latitude?
The music.
A reminder, in Scottsdale, Arizona, chalk every single wheel. Maybe put 2 on it. I don't know, but this is what happens when you don't chalk all your wheels.
I love reading the comments.
Yeah,
NetJets is now requiring 5 chalks.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is interesting. So I didn't know this was a thing. All right. So sovereigns, X's, latitudes, longitudes, they easily weather vane. New term.
Interesting. Thanks, M. Baird 91. Shout out to you if you're listening to the show. We'll send you this clip so that you know that you got a shout out. But that is awesome. I mean, the PC-12 sitting next to us just firm. It's totally fine.
Just fine. It's fine.
The latitude is just dancing.
Just got a little more tailwinds to play with.
Some line guy went crazy. So, all right. Well, we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of this show. Today, we've got Kyle on. We introduced him a little bit earlier. Kyle is a good friend of mine. He is the founder and CEO of BitLux. They are a charter broker who has been crypto forward for a lot longer than anyone knew what Bitcoin was. So when your grandma started asking about Bitcoin, you knew that you were too late. But Kyle knew way before your grandma started asking about Bitcoin. And we're here to talk about the Genius Act. The Genius Act just passed through Congress. It was actually sponsored by the Tennessee state representative from my hometown, or from where we're at in Chattanooga, Bill Haggerty, really championed this. Jessie and I have been doing a little bit of deep diving into the Genius Act and what it means for crypto and specifically stable coins. And for those listeners that are listening and you kind of rolled your eyes when we started talking about crypto, I think the big thing that we're big about on this show is being progressive and figuring out kind of what's next for the industry. Something that not a lot of people are talking about. And Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're big. Those are kind of big, scary, volatile things. This is not exactly what we're talking about on this podcast today. What we're talking about is stable coins and what it could mean for operators and brokers, KYC, things like that. So, Kyle, thanks for coming on. I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. I'm glad that this is getting some level of coverage. Early on, it was kind of a very, very weird thing. I guess I started in the crypto space, I guess in 20. I rolled my eyes because it has actually been a long time, and I don't feel like it's been that long, but like it's been a while. So 20, the first crypto anything we did was in 2017. Did it under a different company, and then was able to kind of scale that out. And I saw something that other people didn't. I was like, okay, well, this is a clear path out of the roadblocks that we face every day in charter and jet cards and even fuel releases, dude. It's nuts. It's just crazy the barriers that we have on existing financial systems, especially if you've got the cash on hand. Which that's what I couldn't wrap my hand around. I can jump in a little bit into that a little bit later, but touching on the Genius Act, I think it's provided a very stern framework, which is all that it is. It's just framework and legal definitions of what stablecoins are, how issuers of stablecoins need to be able to operate in the space, and it's also regulated by the banking industry, not finance industry, which means that it should have quite a bit more fluidity in the way that things, if something needs to adapt, we can do that a lot more fluid in the future, which I don't think so, because it's pretty well worded and very solid in its base now. So some things that I thought were really interesting and really important too, especially more than anything else, kind of, the American way of business, for better or worse. I'm completely against it, but we've seen this with FTX. We've seen it with, you name the company that has ever failed, especially in aviation, Aerovanti. We could go on for days of like leverage to the moon. Cross your fingers and hope this works. And you're putting customers at risk, you're putting investors at risk, you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting government agencies, a huge load on government agencies to be able to do this investigation kind of stuff. And I say all that because one of the most important things is that stablecoin issuers are not allowed to rehypothecate funds. Specifically,
can you explain that to those of us who don't understand the word
and get really
rehypothecation?
And really simple too. I mean, just explaining even, stablecoin is a pegged, US dollar, $2 number. It's no longer this volatile coin.
Because I think when people think about crypto, they think Bitcoin goes zoom, like it just goes up and to the right, and it's incredibly volatile.
It does.
And you wake
it
up
does go up and to the right.
and one day it's $10,000 up, and the next day it's $10,000 down, and there's a lot of speculation. Versus kind of what the Genius Act puts in kind of the state in the form of stablecoins.
Yeah, so stablecoins are not supposed to be volatile at all whatsoever. They were never built to be that way. So I guess starting from the very beginning, right, a stablecoin is defined as, a US dollar backed digital currency. And when I say US dollar backed, that means that it has to have a matching pair on the other side. Right, so let's say for every dollar that I give you, Preston, digital dollar that I give you, I have to have an easily available liquid asset that is sitting in a bank account or a trust, or some of them can do, like interest-bearing accounts. Like I know that, Circle puts some of their funds in REITs, or they work a lot
And
like
you can put it in treasuries too, I believe. I mean,
yes.
it has to be kind of the very stable. You can
Mhm.
get your money. And
Yep.
the way that I listen to this podcast, Art Laffer from Nashville. It's interesting that Tennessee is kind of at the center of this crypto world right now. Art Laffer's in Nashville. He's an economist, and he talked about the idea like I have a dollar bill here. Like this is a paper representation of a dollar, and the original idea was that that equated to a certain amount of gold held in a reserve bank.
Yeah.
And stable coins, in my understanding, is kind of like how the paper is worth $1 and there is something else that is backed with it by a dollar. Stablecoin is like the green paper, and there is a real dollar backing it just in the digital ecosystem.
Well, it's no longer the
Yes, and to
gold
be fair,
standard.
it's no
Now
different
it's,
than the numbers that are in your bank account.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's the exact same thing as what it's probably even more. It is more regulated than your checking account, which is fantastic, right? Because let's say that I go make $1 million deposit into my bank right now. I'll give you a great example. We just had a $500,000 deposit on a jet card today. That got put into our bank account. We stick it into, a safe money market account where our funds are readily available. Now, does the bank actually put those funds aside for us? No. Those funds are used for either loans, or it could be for whatever it is that banks do with your money. That's what they're doing with it. However, stable coins, you as an issuer, meaning someone who creates a stable coin on a blockchain, which is the software that is running all of this stuff, um, they are not allowed to, and this is where the rehypothecation comes in, they're not allowed to take that original dollar and invest it or change its form in any way that could hinder the already issued funds. So a great example of this would be there was something called Luna, like a UST. They were a stablecoin issuer, and what they did, which I thought was really, really smart at the time, it was very smart at the time, and we all learned a pretty hard lesson from it. But what they did was they issued funds and backed those funds with Bitcoin. And the protocol would, based off of how things were going in the market, would buy or sell or, delete, stable coins. And when there was a big market shift, ultimately it became depegged because it lost its peg from the assets that were in the account that was backing this multi-billion-dollar thing. And everything kind of came, well, it didn't kind of, it definitely came crashing down. So the stablecoin, the Genius Act, it kind of prevents, it doesn't kind of, it definitely prevents issuers from doing anything that would remotely involve any risk with a digitally issued currency. But again, it's the same idea as the dollar that's in your bank account. It's not sitting in a bank account. It's not sitting in a vault. It's a number on a screen and sitting inside of a database. This is even more secure and stable than that. So, and another thing that is in the Genius Act that I thought was really, really cool is that stablecoin holders get priority in the event of any kind of liquidation claims or any kind of issues that may arise from financial collapse from an issuer. So let's say Bank of America decides to issue stablecoin. If for some reason Bank of America gets into any kind of trouble, you as a stablecoin holder get priority access to reclaiming those, your value out of that institution over other holders, which is crazy to me. So that in reality, what it's saying, in my personal opinion, is that you have a better option and a safer option to hold digital backed dollars rather than on-chain dollars rather than funds sitting in your bank account.
So the one piece of this, though, I did see is that it's not FDIC insured. So there's a little bit difference there in terms of security.
Correct. Yes. Stablecoins they are not considered deposits, so they can't be covered under the insurance system. However, they can be issued with FDIC qualifying banks, right? So you've still got, you as if you're depositing money into a bank account, they're not going to issue you a stablecoin, right? but you can have stablecoins issued to you by someone who is FDIC, which means you've also got, that financial institution has a certain level of insurance that's associated with it at a federal level, which no matter what way you dice it, even with FDIC, I think the insurance is only up to what, $250,000 instead of
Right.
like we're in private aviation here.
And that's a great
the insurance isn't
movement
covering
towards, okay, we're an aviation show. Why are we even talking about stablecoins? So I guess, tell us what you think this could change.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure that it would change a ton. I will say that we have been accepting stablecoins for the last 8 years now, and going on 8 years. And it's hopefully what it does is it drives a certain level of confidence and comfort for people who need access to their liquidity, without having to go through the normal typical channels, right? So historically, ever since I was a kid in aviation, which has been a very long time, we haven't been able to process transactions on weekends. You can't process transactions Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 4:30 Eastern time, excluding federal holidays, despite wherever you're at in the world. It doesn't matter if you're in freaking Uganda, it was just Labor Day here, but try getting a wire on Monday. It's impossible, right? And if you're one of these cobalt exporters, what are you supposed to do? Right. So especially if you have an AOG and you don't have, there's a million different circumstances where this applies. Actually, we can apply it to about 45% of our entire business, where the traditional banking system continually fails customers who need to process. They have the money, but it's inaccessible due to, the current TradFi system, traditional finance system. So I think this is a way to kind of circumvent that. And then historically, if you wanted to go outside of using, let's say you want to use your own money at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you got to pay a 4.5% fee.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds, just listen to that. That's crazy.
I think that's the game changer, is that it could remove transaction costs, and we could move to a place where we don't need credit card holds, pre-auths, or any of that stuff anymore, because, there may be platforms that can guarantee payment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's already platforms out there in the crypto space that can kind of do that. It holds your funds as kind of a line of or a letter of credit to be able to put you in good standing, with whatever financial institution that you're working with. And, I will say that it's not, this kind of stuff happens all the time. The most notable one that I remember was in 2020. It wasn't stablecoins that was used; it was Bitcoin at the time. I will absolutely throw up if I tell you what the price was and how many Bitcoins were received for this particular flight. But someone was in an emergency medical condition because they had gotten pneumonia they got COVID. They were put on a ventilator. They got pneumonia. They were in Western Russia. There was very little medical support whatsoever. And this guy calls. This is like 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning, our time. And he's like, hey, I don't have a means of getting my mother to Norway. She has insurance there. She needs to get to a hospital there. He had Bitcoin, and we were able to dispatch an air ambulance flight from France over to Western Russia. And we were able to do this. I mean, within 45 minutes, we were able to get a crew moving. And then within about 4.5 hours, there was an aircraft there on the ground with medical staff. I'll send you the video, Preston. It is freaking cool. And she was with the proper medical care within, I think it was 9 hours. 9 hours of the time that he said go, in the middle of COVID, where this wouldn't have been possible without the use of blockchain technology.
So is that, so the way that my friends that kind of do traditional finance, right? I've had, friends ask me for a charter trip on a Saturday, and I connect them with a broker. And it's like, okay, let me put a hold on your credit card just in case you don't wire me on Monday. And I'll charge you on Monday when the wire doesn't hit, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We're not really sure. I have to pre-auth your credit card, which is going to tie up the $50,000, $80,000 on your credit card. And if I hit it, not only is it's even if it's not 3%. People think, oh yeah, credit card processing 2.5%, 3%. But private aviation is such a high risk as seen by card processors. It's 4.5%. I think I've even heard of 6% credit card processing fees for private aviation. I guess I guess here, what is the path towards me? I mean, I have some crypto, but not enough. Like, I don't have like a lot of my liquidity in crypto. And if I needed that trip, like, how far are we from me, non crypto native, to be able to utilize that type of technology? Or maybe my bank account is half stablecoin, half cash, like in my deposits. Like, how close are we to that? Which is gonna, I think, remove a lot of the risk in the broker to operator transaction. Or the alternative is, you as a broker, like, the operator requires payment now. Even if you're on a credit card auth and you're going to take a wire on Monday, like, you now have to float that transaction. Like, how far are we from kind of non-crypto native consumers being able to utilize some of this technology?
Well, define crypto native. I think what it comes down to is having native relationships. Period. Right? If you have a good relationship with an OTC partner, which is basically like a trust or a crypto issuing bank. I mean, if I needed $1 million tomorrow, I could go ask them, and they have immediate access to my funds. They know it's there. They know they're good for it. And if I need to send out a text message, they send it. They can send stablecoin to whatever wallet that I deem necessary, and they issue me that line of credit. So there are creditors out there who are issuing these lines that are on-chain lines based in current, digital currencies that you can use, backed by your own credit rating as well as your own dollars. So you could use it kind of like a secured credit card. Is there something that's mass marketed that's easy to just click a couple buttons to get? No, I don't think we're there yet. We're probably about 3 to 4 years out from that. And if you're doing that, there's also going to be processing fees because that's part of the game. But I think there's a way where stablecoin holders, or not issuers, maybe even issuers, could do that. Where they can have some sort of a debt or credit feature that's easily accessible for that option. For people who decide to use that.
So, Kyle, you have been accepting crypto, you've been paying in crypto, you are a digital money native company. As you
Yes.
know, a lot of private aviation companies are not that way.
Correct.
Um, what would be your suggestion? Maybe let's start with operators, right? Because they're the other side of your transaction.
hmm
What would be your recommendation to operators to be able to start getting their companies ready to accept this type of payment from brokers like you or other brokers that have kind of adopted this technology?
Well, I think the first step would probably be just working strictly based in stablecoins. I think that's step one. It's super easy. And what it comes down to is education. Education over legislation, 100%. And what I mean by that is that crypto can actually be extremely foolproof. And it is so foolproof that it's, 3 clicks of a button, and literally you have to write something down on a piece of paper and store it in a safe or get it tattooed on you. I mean, it's literally that foolproof. In saying that, I think the largest thing that people should be able to do, I just had an operator recently. We did, and it was, again, over the weekend. It was a 300 something thousand dollar flight, and it was, oh man, what was it? California to Dubai. And I told the operator, I said, listen, we can issue you a credit, like I can show you a credit statement that says this wire will go dispatched on Monday, because they wanted proof of funds. I said, or I can just transfer you the stable coins right now. And no joke, the CFO emails me back. He says, sorry, we don't deal with fake money. And I was like, dude, I'm telling you, I can pay you right now. Pronto. You know what I mean? We don't have to deal with any of this. So I just thought it was an interesting comment, and this was 4 weeks ago. I just thought it was hilarious. So that being said, I think the first step is to being able to create a simple wallet, a very simple wallet, whether it's on a CFO's phone, a CEO's phone. You could do it using Ledger, Trezor, and most stablecoins are run on Ethereum. So just watch a 5-minute YouTube video on how to do it. The wallet addresses, they look very complex, but so does your bank account number. Just keep that in mind. No one ever remembers that. You have to copy and paste it every time. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with the crypto wallet.
And well, and like a wire fraud is real. I mean, like
Yes.
when you hit go on a wire, And if you have a fraudulent, on the other side, if it's fraudulent, then you're SOL, right? Like,
Mm,
I think that's the big thing that is a common misconception is, oh, this is fake money. But like wires are not that far away from fake money. And if it
yeah.
goes to the wrong place, like tough luck, right? That money's
Yes.
gone.
Yep. Yeah, and that happens quite often. You see this, I'm sure you get these emails of like these invoices from operators or finance companies, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I changed our direct deposit address. Here's the invoice." Like, man, and I think private aviation is a prime suspect simply because our average transaction is very, very high. So that being said, one of the safety and security best practices that anyone could do is publicly list available and safe wallet addresses. You can post those on your website. You can have those, do what we do is a 2FA, right? The equivalent of a 2FA. So basically, when
Two
someone's ready,
factor authentication for those people
yes.
who are still catching up.
Yeah, so what we do is we make sure that two people or two representatives from our company send the exact same wallet address at the same time. This way, there's not it prevents what's called MITM, which is man in the middle. So there could be someone in the middle of your conversation saying, "Hey, deposit it to this wallet address or deposit it to this wallet address." So what happens is that, when someone wants to process a crypto transaction, the wallet that's posted into their account or into their chat or into their email is the same one that's published on our website, or it's the same one that the manager also sends. So this way they get a very, clear message of this is the correct one. This is easy to use. So I don't know how many times people have reached out on pretending to be BitLux customer, like a BitLux representative. I have heard of one, actually. It was almost $70,000, and it wasn't crypto. It was wire. Someone had gone through the sales process, gotten a contract from us, pretended to be us, and then changed the bank account information. And they wired to the wrong bank account and called us the day of the flight and was like, "Hey, where's our airplane?" I said, "What? What do you mean?" And they had actually sent out a wire transfer to a completely fake everything. It
Yep.
was
And
terrible.
that's big in trucking too. I mean, I've got friends in the transportation space, and that's a real thing. And I think that
Yeah.
we have to be vigilant about that in private aviation. So just to recap really quick, if there's an operator CEO that's listening and they're saying, look, we need to at least consider this, it's get a wallet address, do some research, understand how you can actually clear these payments, and then understanding how you can clear it out of stablecoin into dollars, because you probably aren't paying your employees or your fuel bill or your hangar space in stablecoin. And so then how do you, and then figure out how to take it from stablecoin and convert that into US dollars. But I think that I think that if there are operators that are out there that are thinking about how do we get kind of on the forefront of this, I think that that's something important. And then for brokers that are out there, I think it's similar, right? Exactly how you just laid it out was make sure that there is kind of a two-factor authentication for what your address is. Make sure that your clients are, understand crypto and they understand how to send digital money. And then you can take out a lot of the unknown on a Saturday. I guess the one last question that I have before we wrap here is know your customer. It's a big thing in private aviation. There's a lot of people that, step up on soapboxes and talk about, you have to know who your customer is, and you really have to know, that they're not, drug smuggling or human trafficking and things like that. Um, is it any different in the crypto space when you're doing know your customer on the other side of the transaction? How do you guys think about that? Is there anything that can help, facilitate that? Is it, hey, we're still trying to figure it out, that's still a big unknown? I think a lot of people think, oh, Bitcoin illicit activity, right? Like at least that's how it was for a while on like the Silk Road and all that kind of stuff. But like, how do you think about know your customer?
Well, first off, when I think U.S. dollar, I think more crime than anything else. It's the most widely used currency for any global crime. But that being said, I think KYC is extremely invasive. I'm a private aviation enthusiast, lover, entrepreneur, and I eat, breathe, and sleep private aviation. Both of those words. I think that people's finances are not my business, period. And nor are my finances any of yours. That being said, we BitLux has a very proprietary way of protecting consumer and customer information from getting fed into the giant data cog that is notoriously spying on everybody. I think that's very important to clarify. And I think that a lot of the KYC and AML things, a lot of those came up after 9/11, and they used 9/11 as a convenient excuse to say, oh, you could be funneling money to terrorists. Anything over $10,000 you need to do. What can you buy for 10,000? Like, are you serious? You need to do KYC for a wedding ring? You're joking. Tell me that you can't make it make sense, you know? I think you have to be very, very cautious, and I think not in the illicit or money laundering space. I'm saying that you have to be cautious and very careful with the financial information and disclosures that you are giving on private individuals on a global level. I am not going to say that I'm happy about the KYC kind of thing. I'm not a big proponent of it. Now, that being said, there are easy processes for KYC should someone decide to go through that. It's a Form 8300 from the IRS. It's the same thing you fill out for any kind of cash transaction. They want to know what social security numbers you have, both yours, the receiving parties, sending parties' address, where they slept last night, also their credit score. It's pretty invasive. We do what we can to shield our customers against that, through again, a very proprietary means, and it's a little bit of a gray area too, because it is a digital currency. It's very that legislation is very regionally based, specific to the United States. It's not a thing most other places. Now, that being said, what charter companies do to try and do KYC, I don't, do we know who our customers are? Absolutely. 9 times out of 10, we have their passport. It is what it is.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's
super interesting. That's very interesting. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on the VIP seat. I think that this is an interesting topic that I think a lot more operators and charter brokers should start thinking about, and really start to adopt some of this technology, especially now that there's legislation around it. And if anybody wants to find out more about you, where should they go find you, and connect if they got any other questions or anything like that?
Real quick, I do want to say on the KYC, AML, and accepting stablecoins, there are current providers out there such as BitPay. They are super easy to get set up. Super, super easy. You go in, you put your customer in, you put it works like opening a bank account. They will do the KYC, they will do the AML for you. They do charge a fee, which kind of is inherently against the grain for crypto. But if it's a solution you want to be able to provide to the marketplace, I think that's a great place to start. And then to find out more about me, you're not going to be able to find out much about me except for on Twitter, or maybe if you pull Preston's arm, you might be able to.
Exactly. Well, go to bitlux.com if you want to find out more about Kyle's charter brokerage. You can come join Kyle and I on Twitter. We're both on x.com. We'd love to see you there. Jessie bids her farewell from the desert. Her computer died, and she is on her birthday trip with her husband in their RV. So she says goodbye. This has been the VIP seat. If you like this episode, please make sure to leave us a comment on YouTube, hit the little thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, go check out the newsletter. We're going to link a lot of information about the Genius Act, and we're going to talk a lot about some of the stablecoin stuff that Kyle has discussed. So we'll have a ton of links in the newsletter. That's at thevipseat.com, and we will see you all next week.
Thanks for having me, Preston.